Alright, so we're ready to start cutting out the inside of our pieces. I've drilled my hole to access the piece. We know how to load our blade, and so I have this blade loaded in, but I need to undo the top because I need to be able to slide the blade through the hole that I drilled. So just undoing one side, and then making sure when I load the piece through that I have the template facing up so that I can see where I'm cutting. So I'm just going to slide the blade through the hole that I drilled, and then I'm going to slide this all the way up to the end. That way it's not dragging the blade down when I release it. So I'm going to take the top of my saw to the edge of the table, place the blade between the two pieces of metal while I push, and letting that push sort of bend the wire as I'm pushing, keeping that push into the table. I'm going to tighten my wing nut, and then when I release, I have that nice solid tight blade with my piece dangling on it. So this is our workbench here. We can work, there are times when, most of the time you can work between the cutout here. There are some times where you might have to let the piece hang off the edge. Just whatever works. So I am going to start cutting around this round piece, and I'm going to grab one thing before I forget, and that is saw blade wax. So there are different kinds of wax in here. We have just some paraffin and we have some Burr Life. Any of them will work. And all you need to do with them, this one sort of works like a push-up pot, is push up a little. All you need to do is drag a little bit of that across your blade. It just minimizes the friction, makes your blade last a little longer. And then I'm going to take my piece here, and I'm going to start cutting towards the line. It's just an up and down motion. I am only pushing hard enough to allow the blade to maintain contact with the metal. If you push too hard, your blade will break. Every now and then, just blow off the dust. If you look away and get distracted, or you let your saw bend as you're working, your blade will break. So you don't want to hear a loud grinding sound. You just want to hear that sort of soft cutting sound. When I come around curves, I can stop. I can turn my piece a little, and I have just a nice little rounded cut here, so I can just gradually turn as I'm going up and down. Don't ever try to turn without the saw moving up and down. So keep it moving, and use the whole length of your blade. You see I'm going all the way up and down. If you just do tiny little spot, you wear out the teeth in that spot, and it'll take you forever to cut. So anytime I have to move, I stop cutting. If I get a little snag, I don't force it, just back up a little and keep going around. It is much easier to cut with the blade going away from you than it is to try to cut at some awkward angle with your wrist, so always move your metal as you need to. So once I get this piece cut out, this little piece goes in the scraps. And I would say about every inch that you cut, you want to reapply saw blade wax. So right about here, I'll go ahead and lift up my blade and throw some more wax on there. I've almost got this little piece cut out. And there it goes. So now I have my whole piece. I can undo my blade and pull that off, and you can see I've got my first piece cut out, and I can keep going with the rest of the pieces. I want to show you also how to cut different shapes, how to take a sharp curve, because some of your designs you might actually have a very sharp curve in it. So I'm going to put my blade back in, push against the table, let it bend, tighten the wing nut, release. And I'm just going to cut a little scrap off, just off the edge here. When you're starting on an edge, which you will after you get all your little pieces cut out, you're going to just start by going down until you get a little groove in the metal. And then get your up and down. make sure your metal is held steady. So I like to hold my metal with my hands, that way it's easy to move when I'm ready for it. But some people have a hard time, this hand might get tired. There are clamps that you can clamp down the metal if you choose. So if the metal is vibrating and moving on you, your blade's going to break. So make sure you get it held down really well. I like to put one finger on either side, but I'm always cautious about putting my finger in front of the blade. I try to keep it behind or out of the way. So as I go straight, no big deal, up and down. When I want to take a curve, let's say I want to take a right angle curve, I'm going to stop pushing up and down, or I'm going to stop pushing forward, but I'm going to keep going up and down. You can hear that I'm not pushing. There's no grinding at all. And I'm going to slowly swing my saw blade while moving up and down in the direction I want to make my turn. My metal's staying steady. Swing it, swing it, swing it, but always move up and down. Don't force it. If you get a snag, slow down, back up, try it again. I'm going to move my metal without moving my blade. And once I get it repositioned, up and down, no pushing forward. And when I'm done with my entire turn, I can keep going. So now I'm ready to push forward again, now that I've made that V-turn. So any sharp turns, you want to make sure you stop pushing forward, but maintain that up and down movement. Move my fingers here. I'm going to add a little more wax and keep going. When I get out to the end, if at any time your fingers are in front of your blade, make sure at the end they're not in front, because there's nothing keeping that blade from pushing forward until it hits something else. So now that I'm nearing the end, I make sure my fingers are behind. And when I get out to the end, my piece just comes out. All the little scraps that you cut off of your work need to be recycled in the scrap containers. They can all be used. So as I drop them, pick them up, I'll put them in the appropriate scrap box. So that's how you cut, that's how you make turns. Just know that, especially when you start off, you're going to break blades. As you get better, you'll break less blades. All blades eventually break. They wear out, they break. Or maybe you'll get so good that you wear out the teeth of them before they even break. So that's why we kind of keep tally of our blades, so we know if we're getting better. Don't be frustrated if at first you break several blades. If you do, you just adjust the back of the saw, make it smaller, and use the broken pieces of the blade until they have no teeth left and you can't use them anymore. So that is your beginning cutting with the jeweler saw, and you'll get all your inside pieces cut out, and then you'll cut your outside piece. And then once that piece is cut, we're ready to file and sand, and we're in the home stretch. So happy cutting.